to Down Your Unders. Down Your Unders. Review and dissection of content from some of the sharpest minds in the game. Hosted by Adam Camilleri. Art of War. Down Under.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this episode 169. Big old nice there for our lovely show, Art of War Down Under. Thank you very much for joining us. And we are here to give and pay homage to AOWdu. As many are doing elsewhere, we're going to be reviewing the AOWdu Index, and I've been joined by two illustrious greenskin luminaries, one representing Gork, one representing Mork. You can decide for yourself at home which is which, and it probably doesn't matter. First and foremost, though, Lucas Troller, having represented the great nation of the United States, coming second at the WTC, wielding his orcs to great effect. Hello, mate. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Adam. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure.
And secondly, we have the beautiful boy, Tyler Russo, from right smack bang middle in the Thunderdome itself, Los Angeles. Hello, mate.
Hello, I am a beautiful boy. Thank you for acknowledging that. And it's great to be here. Yeah, this is wild. That was a nice intro. You wrote all of that, or is that I don't know. I couldn't tell if it was
169 in. I'm getting okay at this at times.
Yeah, that was great.
It varies.
Good use of the English language. It was fun. Yeah,
we have been known to speak some English in Australia, but that also varies. But anyway, if you do not know, guys, this is a two-part podcast. You can join the second part of this one over on Patreon at Art of War Down Under, and that was where me and these two lovely gentlemen will be discussing the biggest and the best and answering listener questions. So if you want to jump over there, Art of War Down Under over on Patreon. But these lovely luminaries also have some beautiful things to plug of their own. Tyler, if people like your dulcet tones, where can they catch more of your goodness?
Oh, yeah. Just go to youtube.com and do a search there for Billion Dollar Clown Farm. Billion Dollar Clown Farm. It's the name we have. It's not the easiest to remember name, but it's the name we have.
Have you got a splinter group yet, which is $1 billion and $1 Clown Farm? And they're just recalcitrants, but never mind. Anyway, go check that out. Lucas, where can people find you?
Yeah, so if you want to hear more about orcs and many other armies, my two good friends and I, Nicholas Olsen-Johnson and Tyler Bortel, have a podcast called The Next Generation on the Western Tabletop Network, where we talk all about being young players, aspiring heavy hitters in the Pacific Northwest and across the globe. We had recently went over our experiences in the WTC, so if you're interested in more content like that, just feel free to check out our podcast on YouTube and wherever else you can find podcasts.
I have greatly enjoyed following your journey ever since good mates of mine, Mitch Pelham, told me there was some up-and-comers in Oregon who were starting to shake things up in the Pacific Northwest. Been really enjoying tracking what you guys are doing because you're very distinct faction players and all pushing the envelope in your own ways in your distinct factions. I think that's absolutely fascinating. And then that mixing pot of how you all interact with each other, living in the same house and playing into each other and stuff like that, and how that influences how you step into the tournament scene, I find exceptional. So jump over and check out that goodness. But for those who do not know what Art of War Down Under is, we are primarily a review-based podcast, and thanks for 10th edition giving us a deluge of indexes to do, and we have been churning them out as we can. We do have the Orcs Army coming up for you this weekend, as you are listening to right now, and to that end, we're going to go through all the rules in that index. We're going to read them out verbatim, discuss them at the highest level we are capable of with our big old brains, or funguses, whatever you boys have, and then when we get to the data sheets, we're going to discuss some notable data sheets that these gentlemen think are worth your time, either as somebody who needs to know what to face when orcs are coming at you, or somebody who's budding and aspiring to put their own warband together. All right, starting off with the army rule, I'll kick us off. This is WA. Orc units from your army, so if your faction is orcs, rather, once per battle, the start of the battle round, not the start of a command phase, you can call a WA. If you do until the start of the next battle round, orc units from your army are able to declare a charge in the turn in which they advanced. Add 1 to the strength and attacks characteristics of melee weapons equipped by orc models from your army, and orc models from your army have a 5+ invulnerable save. Really interesting that this is an amalgam of essentially all the stages, all the variants that WoW went through essentially, I think, half of 8th edition and all of 9th edition wrapped into one. I'll start with you, Tyler. What do you think of this rule? Is it any good? Has it been good for you?
Do you want to read the flavor text too? The infamous Warcraft of the Orcs.
That's part
very important to me. I've read that a lot more than I have the actual WoW rules.
That's part 3 of the show. We don't have
Oh,
a Patreon
cool,
tier
cool,
for that
cool,
yet.
cool. Nice. All right. Yeah, WOG. I mean, it's good. It's not as good as start of player turn and 2 turns, or 2 battle rounds, but whatever. At least we still have it. Yeah, start of battle round sucks, as many people who play a lot of 9 foil note. It looked like kind of cute on paper for like 45 seconds when it was first changed. I was like, oh, then I can proc 5 up start of turn 1 if I want to. And then, within probably less than 45 seconds, it'd be 10 seconds after that. I was like, wait, when would you actually ever want to do that? And the answer is never. So the reason why start a battle round is rough is because your opponent can respond to it. Because
if you're going second,
yeah. They're like, okay, well, like you popped it, start a battle round. I know that, so I'm just gonna like play KG now, and you're gonna waste your log when they might have played aggressive otherwise, depending on the matchup. Like I had a Votan game the other day where my opponent chose to be pretty aggressive and did not log turn 1. And because I didn't, he knew he could. Versus like if I had the option to at the start of my player turn, it would have made his turn a lot harder to plan out. So
it really does make it distinctive in its power. Like to go, if you're going first, WA retains all of its goodness. If you're going second, you have to use it completely differently. Is that true to say, Lucas?
Yeah, I think so. You definitely. I mean, there's a noticeable. It's very much like World Leaders in that when you go first, all your army mechanics really gel and work correctly, quote unquote. Whereas when you're going second, it feels really rough and you don't get to do half the stuff that your book kind of wants to do.
Yeah.
That being said, I do think that the suite of buffs that WA provides are really, really powerful as an army rule, right? Like the couple of things you can do in 40k, you can hit hard, you can go places, and you can be tough. And the WA buffs all 3 of those, right? Like 5 up invuln on a codex full of terrible armor saves is really good.
Yeah.
+1 strength and attack on a codex full of lots of volume and lots of low strength attacks goes a long way. And then advance and charge, obviously I don't need to talk about how amazing that rule is. Gets you stuck into combat, gets you crumping heads, and the Humies are going to run in fear.
Well, that's right, because you could just look at this as being like 1/5 of the game, my army's just going to be a percentile better in every way.
It feels more like half, but it is just 1. Yeah, it's like
Well, if you call depending on the matchup, if you're able to call the turn, it can be the only one that matters, right? Because there's a lot of matchups where there's only 1 or 2 turns of the game that are going to decide the outcome.
Yeah, I mean, in 9th it felt like the whole game because like you usually did turn 2 still, and then turns 2 and 3 were the whole game, and by then it was probably usually decided. And then now I feel like it's like half, and that like the turn you call it is like huge, and then hopefully even enough damage so that the other turn you can either like mop them up without WOG or not. And it is very weird just that you have this like mechanic that basically like you just choose a battle round to be the most important one, and you succeed in your mission that battle round or you don't. It often feels like it's over. I mean, the rest is like orcs are very good at scoring this edition, so the rest is just like you racking up points. And whether or not you can, I feel like it's just mostly dependent on like what you were able to interact with from your opponent's army during your WOG turn. So,
all right, moving on to the detachment rule. Lucas, read this out for us and give us your impressions.
Yeah, so this is a detachment rule for the WA tribe detachment. If your army faction is orcs, you can use this WA tribe detachment rule. Get stuck in. Melee weapons equipped by orc models from your army have the sustained hits 1 ability. So it doesn't matter if you charge, doesn't matter if it's your WA turn, just if you're making a melee attack, 6s explode. I think this is a excellent army rule. It very much parrots what Goths were doing over the course of 9th edition, right?
Yep.
Goths had +1 strength on the charge and 6s explode in melee. Now this is just 6s explode in melee. So basically the same power level, and that rule was huge for Goths, and it's still huge for orcs. Now, it just makes all of our units punch up far above what you would actually think when you look at their data sheet. When you stack 6 explode, assuming you don't have any rerolls, 6 explode is roughly equivalent to +1 to hit. So getting +1 to hit army wide is absolutely excellent, and I think this is a fantastic detachment rule.
Tyler, what about yourself?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like it. I'm glad it's here. Spoiler, you can make it even better if you go to stratagems. But yeah, it's it ain't bad.
I think it's perfectly acceptable. And then we're going to be jumping over to the stratagems, the first of which is Kareen, 1 CP. When any phase just after an Orc's vehicle unit from your army with a deadly demise ability is destroyed. That destroyed Orc vehicle unit, if you roll 6 for its deadly demise, you can use this stratagem instead of resolving it as otherwise. You can make a normal move or fall back move before its deadly demise ability is resolved, and before any embarked units perform an emergency disembarkation. When making this move, your units can move over enemy units, including monster vehicles, as if they were not there. This is cute. It's cute and it's good. It's good. Like if you could control when you roll a 6, like if it's the important unit that you need to get a distance on, it would be way better. And the fact that you can never plan for this, it's more like just taking advantage of an opportunity. But still, absolutely hilarious, boys. What do you think?
This is the best stratagem in the whole game, and not because of what it does mechanically, but because of its emotional power. It's so sick. It feels so good to Korean vehicles. No, ever like you always like explain at the beginning of the game. People are like, yeah, whatever, like that would ever happen, and then suddenly the truck explodes, and then the 10 beast snaggers they're planning on shooting are out of line of sight, and they're like, that fucking sucks, and the game is over, and it rules. Yeah, it's awesome. Everything you said, right? Like you can't control it. But when it does happen, it's just like it's so impactful. And no one ever plans for it, including you. Sometimes,
how can you?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, like Tyler said, you can't really plan for it, but it's hugely impactful whenever it happens. You can use it defensively, like Tyler's mentioning. All of a sudden, those snaggers are behind a wall, not being shot. You could use it offensively as well, and I think the clause that you can perform a fallback move and move over enemy models that aren't vehicles and monsters is huge, right? Like you're in combat, enemy infantry punch your tank. Oh, look, I exploded. Boom. Now my guys are in your backfield. 5 points of primary denied. And now my beast snaggers are living in your home field.
Yeah, I've had like 15-point swings from this. It's huge. It's definitely one of the games.
This is a goofy stratagem, and it can be fun at times to blow it up in your opponent's army. But when it provides primary swings, this is actually hugely effective.
Exactly right. That's the better part of the strat, right? The movement. It's essentially 1/6 of the time, my vehicles are going to let me move twice. The models seem like just a cherry on top. If your opponent's playing a heavy MSU army, they're clumped up, sure, go for it. But apart from that, you're trying to slingshot something, which I think is extremely potent if you look at it from that lens.
Absolutely.
But anyway, Lucas, stinker with you, mate. Tell us about Orcs is Never Beaten.
Yeah, Orcs is Never Beaten. This is one of my favorite stratagems. So use it in the fight phase. It's 2 CP just after an enemy unit has selected its target. So you have to use it preemptively. 1 Orcs unit from your army that was selected as a target of 1 or more of the attacking unit's attacks. And then until the end of the phase, each time a model is destroyed, you don't remove it, and then it can fight on death, essentially. So this is an excellent stratagem, kind of, again, parroting a lot of what we had in 9th edition. We had the 2 CP character fight on death, also called Orcs is Never Beaten. Now it's just for any unit, right? So you can have your big punchy character fight on death, but you could also have like a squad of infantry fight on death and trade with your opponent. So definitely expensive at 2 CP. And like I was mentioning, you do have to call your shot in advance. Your opponent can like whiff into you, and then all of a sudden they kill 2 orcs and your 2 guys fight on death. Happened to me the other day, and it's always a sad day. But it is nice to go for guaranteed trades. Like if you're sure your opponent is going to wipe you out, 2 CP, I am going to hit you back no matter what.
Well, exactly right. 2 CP is the going rate to automatically fight on death. A lot of people have a 1 CP 4+ or a 1 CP, have a chance to fight on death. 2 CP, slap it down, happens all the time. Is nice. But yeah, you're right. The T's and C's and the timing is a little bit weird. Tyler, how often does this come up in your games?
So I feel like I used to use it way too much, and it was not impactful. 2 CP is a little hard to come by for orcs in the year of our Lord 2023. Times are tough financially for command points. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's important though, because it's like your opponent knows you have this, and then it like changes what they do, and they're like sweating and trying to figure out how to respond to a lot of the time. It's like against like world leaders or like custodes, formerly like pre-data slate, it was like super good. That's like the only reason that matchup was like winnable for me. It's because of the stratagem, and it's like it's the power that it has, where like your opponent has to like plan around this. You just leave those 2 CP like standing there staring at them, and then they have to now like change what they're going to do in response, even if you don't pop it, right? It's like I think it's like very impactful, even though I don't use it like every game at all. I probably use it like once every 2 or 3 games. But it always comes up every game that like I could do this. Yeah, well, that's important.
Sticking with you, Tyler, tell us about the next one, Unbridled Carnage.
Yeah, Unbridled Carnage, Log, Tribe, Battle Tax Stratagem. When orcs get stuck into the foe, the carnage is wonderful to behold, at least for the orcs. Cost 1 CP. When fight phase, target 1 orcs unit from your army that has not been selected to fight this phase. Effect, until the end of the phase, each time an orc model in your unit makes a melee attack, an unmodified hit roll of 5 scores a critical hit, which synergizes greatly with Get Stuck In. When do we want critical hits all the time because we have army-wide sustained hits 1 in melee. This is great. This is one I use like almost every game. And again, probably maybe too much, but it's it's sick. I think like it's a little different in that like I think a lot of the big orc units I'm running now have like a lot of attacks, but not as many as they used to in like 9th. Like I was running a lot of like beast snagas and like pre-data sleep. Right now I only have like 1 unit. I might even change that for a second knob unit. I don't know yet. So like it's still great, but like if you have like 40 attacks or so, like a huge like squig hogs or knobs, it's good. But I mean like Mazrog and like a lot of the other like sort of staple melee units, I feel like it's like less relevant on, but it's very helpful. It's great. It's like an extra +1/+2 hit.
It feels like
something you can even do normally. Yeah.
It feels like a bread and butter stratagem for sure. Tyler, sorry, Lucas, apologies. Does it feel like that for yourself, or is this more situational than it appears?
I think it's pretty situational. If you really need to power through an enemy unit, make sure it goes away. 1 CP, just make sure that happens. There also is some synergy because there's a limited amount of like lethal hits in the orc book. But if you can have those units in your list, if you're teching them in for whatever reason, and now all of a sudden you have sustained hits because of the detachment rule, lethal hits because of whatever data sheet you're bringing, either Gaskell or the kill rig. And now this critical 5s is getting you extra value because it's critical or sustained and lethal on 5s. So some extra synergy there. So it's a good stratagem. I don't think it's our best one though.
Yeah. Imagine this on flash kits. Damn. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I really like this next one. This is Artist Nails. It is 1 CP. It is a battle tactic stratagem. Use it in your opponent's shooting phase or fight phase just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. You target 1 orc unit from your army that was selected as a target of those attacks. Until the end of the phase, each time an attack targets that unit, subtract 1 from the wound roll. The restrictions being you cannot select a vehicle or a Gretchen unit for this stratagem. So, Gorkanauts, Morkanauts, Death Killer, battle wagons, Death Dreads, all those walkers are out, but all your good stuff, all your big stuff, your knobs, mega knobs, Beast Hog riders, Squig Hog riders, damn the names, all get this to me feels like a bread and butter. This is like, I want to slap this down as much as possible. Is that held true for you, Lucas?
Yeah, reasonable people can disagree, but I think this is our best stratagem by far. The amount of the thing is you get to decide when to use it, right? So you can see like what shots your opponent are lining up and being like, oh, okay, you're going to wound me on 5s there, 1 CP, bam, you're wounding me on 6s, your efficiency is halved. So yeah, I think this is a fantastic stratagem. It can provide primary swings. It can provide you more models to hit your opponent back with. It's just fantastic. And because orcs, like I was mentioning, they don't really have very good saves, but they have a lot of things like feel no pains, and they have a lot of high toughness. Just natively on their infantry and cavalry. So with the high toughness, -1 to wound oftentimes means that people, even with large weapons like anti-tank weapons, they can wound your squig hogs on 4s with this stratagem, which is not very reliable at all.
100%. Tyler, what about yourself?
It looks pretty good. I haven't seen this one before, but I've never scrolled to the second page of the stratagem section, but I might start using it. It seems not bad. I use this like every turn, every game, every turn. It's great. I mean, like the only reason I don't is if I'm like really trying to save for like orcs is never beaten or an interrupt or whatever. I mean, having 2 and then like your opponent thinks you're saving it for like orcs is never beaten. Or an interrupt, then just popping Artist Nails twice, once in shooting, once in the fight phase is like pretty common too. Where like they see you have 2 CP, and I think most people, then just think of fight on death or interrupt, and sometimes can just like not do like the math of like squig hogs are like T7, and like Lucas said, now your anti-vehicle stuff is winning them on 4s, and then like maybe in combat you're winning them on 6s even. It's like it's real good.
I like it. Staying with you, Tyler, tell us about mob rules.
I forgot this existed for real. And it'll probably stay this way after reading it.
I can see why.
Let's read mob rule. When your command phase, target 1 mob unit from your army that contains 10 or more models and is not below half strength. This is 1 CP. Effect until it should be 0. If it was 0, I still might not use it until the end of the phase. Well, a friendly orc infantry unit is within 6 inches of that mob unit. That orc's infantry unit can still be selected as the target of your stratagems, even if it was battle shocked. So you have to pay one CP, then assume you have a second one, and then you can choose another orc infantry unit within 6 inches of that mob to be the target of your second CP, which you definitely have for stratagem.
And you're definitely using it on a unit that's below half strength, right?
Right. Yeah, you're definitely using it on the below half strength unit within 6 inches of an orc infantry unit.
The T's and C's.
This stratagem is horrible. They could have done anything like what we had in 8th edition, right? Where it was like the number of models in the squad buffed your leadership. What if this was just like for every 5 models in a squad within 6, you get to bump your leadership by 1 or something like that? You know, literally anything relevant to making orcs feel brave in large numbers, which is what this is supposed to be. Instead, we have this convoluted, like, if it's raining on a Tuesday and you're playing against Harlequins and they have no boats in their army, then you get, this tiny effect.
If this was a free thing that like was applied to war bosses and they just like had it at the bottom, I would still forget that they have it. Probably it's like, and they didn't change in points.
This is one of the most awkward stratagems in existence. The amount of terms and conditions and hoops you have to jump through to even consider whether this is going to even play a factor in a certain situation that's probably going to come up once every lunar solstice is astronomical. Please feel free to delete this, and you guys are absolutely correct. This is
as someone who works in game design, this was never play tested.
This should be all units within 6 of a unit of 10 or more models is immune to battle shock. It should have just read that.
Obviously,
bang, slap it down. Within 6, immune to battle shock. Don't even have to test.
Even that, it's like very situational, but it's cool. Yeah.
The fact that you have to, because the most damning statement was the first one that you made, Tyler. The fact that I get to spend a CP to have the option to spend another CP, that's trash. That's just trash. That's just get out of here. All right, last one. Here we go. 1 CP. At the start of your movement phase is when it occurs. 1 orcs infantry from your army, and the effect is until the end of the turn, add 2 to the advance and charge rolls made for your unit. Ain't that a tasty morsel? There's also a battle tactic if that matters. We'll find out soon. Lucas, this seems superb, especially for disrupting primary, removing little objective holders, getting into opponent's backfield, doing fixed secondaries, or hell, any secondary. Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great stratagem. Getting up in your opponent's grill and mucking them up is kind of what orcs want to do. There's a couple of things that really hold back the stratagem in my mind from being great. I think it's a good stratagem.
I can see one already,
a couple of interesting things. The first one is infantry only, right? If this worked on Squighog riders or vehicles, I would be a happy lad, let's just say.
I'll cry.
Yeah. The other one is start of the movement phase, right? You can't just use this in the movement phase. Very importantly, this means you cannot select any units that start the turn inside of transports. And that's a lot of what you want to do with orcs is put your infantry in transports because they're very squishy just on foot. Have them in a transport. Oh, you can't use the stratagem on them. So this is really only useful if you have a unit in reserve, because you can use stratagems on units in reserve. Or if your opponent like cracked a transport with the last of their firepower, your guys get out. Now they're on foot. 3 inches closer to the enemy, boom, 1 CP advance and charge, wog straight into them. So it is a good stratagem. It has great effects, but unfortunately a little bit limited on the use cases.
The only ones that really shouted out to me that this is going to be good on all the time is Commandos and Stormboys, because most likely they're not in a transport anyway. But to your point, like it's quite restrictive. Stormboys feels great, because they go faster, and now they go more faster.
It feels good in principle on them, but then like most people are just taking MSU Storm Boys right now, so it's like the value you get out of it is like it's great if you're like I need the score of like the secondary or whatever, and like they need to get engaged and they're like just over the line. I want to guarantee they can get there. But,
exactly right. That's more what I'm thinking of it. It's not on those units. It's not to deal damage. It's more of an activator for secondary points.
So it's still
I was just going to ask you this, battle tactic wise, is there anything in the orc book to leverage the battle tactic stuff, making stuff cheaper, making stuff free, stuff like that?
Unfortunately not. So there are a couple. We have very limited abilities to use stratagems for discounts or free. Basically none of them, like the traditional way of doing a captain making a stratagem free for their unit. We basically have none of that. We have a couple units that can like heroic for 1 CP, but that's more or less it. So your battle tactics are basically only getting vected. That's the only thing that's happening with battle tactics.
Yeah. So to your point previously, Tyler, that we're talking about how the orc CP economy is such a big deal.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. I mean, grots help, but like that's kind of it. Here we go. This was really relevant in the game I played yesterday too. I got a unit of Beast Nagas. Their truck was destroyed and they were hit by a mole launcher. and just let them get into combat stall. So I think like things like
Nice.
that, it happens a lot. Like sometimes like your opponent destroying the transport your units are in and having them get out can be like a bad thing too, because now they can be targeted by this. They wouldn't be able to otherwise. We still kind of live in a night spinner economy, right? So
Yeah,
like there's plenty of reasons to use this, but yeah.
In fact,
I agree with
not,
everything Lucas said. Yeah.
not only are we in a night spinners economy, they're on the rise. Like the
Yeah.
vast majority of lists that used to have one in them, looking
Yeah,
at
they're
two and three now, and it's
Yeah.
just disgusting. All right,
Thanks, man.
Lucas,
Yeah.
first of the enhancements, tell us a story.
Yeah, so the orc enhancements, overall, wonderful things. We've got the Follow Me Lads enhancement. Orcs model only while the bear is leading a unit. Add 2 to the move characteristic of models in that unit. Cheap and cheerful, super great, some added mobility. This is a fantastic enhancement. Unfortunately, it's one of our more expensive ones, but there's a good reason for that. A lot of our units just want to barrel toward the opponent, and you might be wanting to use that at +2 advance and charge, on a unit of squig hogs. Unfortunately, only infantry. This is any unit. So if you can give your squig hogs +2 to move, you can give your infantry guys who really want to get stuck in +2 to move. There's just a ton of synergies with this, and it's just a fantastic enhancement.
For reference, it is 25, and it is the most expensive of the enhancements. Tyler, are you taking this one often?
If I have 25 points to spare, yeah. I used to like make room for it deliberately, and it turns out orcs are pretty fast already. So I think like, and then like, what do you want it on? You want it on like maybe squig hogs who would rather have Edwapa's kill choppa, or you want it on like knobs who are in a truck, and it can help them. Like I think it's more useful on like knobs for war boss, but yeah, 25 is expensive, and I just feel like the way the good orc units work together, it's like an awkward amount of points to just like randomly have lying around. For me, yeah.
Well, sticking with you, tell us about Headwhopper's kill chopper.
Grand War Boss Edwapa and his tribe were last seen charging headlong into a horde of Coronite demons. Okay, all right. I don't. It's so sick.
It is sick.
Everyone, you go.
Actually, no. I'm sorry. You do it, mate. Pop
sure. Okay. Now I spent even more time. Okay. Grand War Boss Edwapa and his tribe were last seen charging headlong into a horde of Coronite demons, but legend speaks of a blood slick choppa that still turns up occasionally. Though this weapon looks normal, a dark voice is said to growl in the mind of its wielder, driving them on an ever greater excesses of violence. Orc model only. Melee weapons equipped by the bearer that do not have the extra attacks ability have a devastating wounds ability, which is real sick. I think this is the best one because we do have a lot of anti-vehicle, anti-monster units, and they are already good. Never mind, like with this too. I take one on a smash knob every game.
100%. 100% agree.
He's great. Yeah.
Absolutely baller. 20 points for the privilege. Lucas, is this a auto include for you as well?
Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna have a knob with smash and squig in your army, giving your whole unit +1 to hit and then adding devastating ones on top of that. Oh, it's so saucy. Points. Especially with that triggering on 3s on the wall turn. You can just slam people with like 10 mortal wounds that they're not expecting at all. Yeah. I love this enhancement. Every time I take a knob on Smash or Squig, it's the first enhancement I take.
Yeah, it's not bad on the Squigosaur War Boss too. The Beast Boss, but yeah, it's better on the Smash and Knob for sure.
All right, next up we have Cunning but Brutal, Orc model only. While the bear is leading a unit, that unit is eligible to shoot and declare a charge in a turn in which it fell back. I wish that just fell back or advance on it. I don't feel like it would break the bank. It's 15 points. As it sits right now, this one, I don't know how to feel about it. I'm not excited by it.
I actually really like. Oh, sorry, Tyler. Go ahead.
No, you go. Sorry. Yeah.
I actually really like this enhancement, and
awesome.
The big reason is its cheapness, right? It's 15 points. Yeah. If it doesn't slot in, I'm not too worried about it. But if it does, I think it's really sick. Just having a war boss be like, if you don't finish me off, I get fallback and charge, and the beast boss gets really good on the charge because it gets devastating wounds. In prolonged combat, not so good. So fallback and charge is really excellent. Also, very importantly, eligible to shoot and declare a charge. So you can always, like, if you have a remnant unit and you really need to do an action, fall back, do an action.
True. Did not consider that. That's why you boys are here.
Yeah. I think it's, I mean, like I was saying, not requirement by any stretch of the imagination, but I think it is underrated, and for its price point, it's definitely worth considering.
Yeah, unlike 25 points, 15 is a common amount of points that just randomly have left in a list.
Yeah.
So I take this when that happens. It's not in my list currently, but it has been. And if that happens again, I'll definitely take it. Yeah. It's like,
All right.
it's good.
All right, we're going to split this one up. Tyler, you get to read the fluff. Lucas gets to read the rule.
I haven't even read the fluff for Super Cyborg Body. Okay, here we go. This is exciting. We're both going to find this out for the
We're
first
breaking
time.
new ground on the show.
Yeah.
We're pushing the envelope, people.
The original owner of this one-of-a-kind endoskeleton became the envy of every war boss around and was soon gutted and stripped for parts by a stronger rival. The Super Cyborg Body, it's a very sad story, damn, has been retransplanted several times since then, filling its new owner with confidence, resilience, and a belated hope that the Pain Boys give it a quick clean before shoving it back in place. That's nice. I like that it's like transferred around from org to org. It's been around for like editions too. So it's GW being cute. There's a wink at that. They love to be meta and cute, and yeah.
All right. Give us the rules, Tyler. Oh, sorry, Lucas.
Nice and easy. Orcs model only. Bear as the 4-up Feel No Pain ability.
Bada bing, bada boom. Is it any good?
I don't think so. There are other codexes with this same enhancement, 4-up Feel No Pain, and can be very good in those books, but in our book, I don't think it's very good. The main people you'd want to take this on are, obviously models that are already tanky. Enhancing that with a 4-up Feel No Pain is excellent, but our tankiest models already have excellent Feel No Pains, like 4-up and 5-up. There's no point in buying this, even for its very cheap price point. It's just like pretty bad, unfortunately.
Is it 10 or 15? I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure it's 15.
Yeah, 15's rough. I mean, I haven't taken it either, but yeah, because like Cunning but Brutal is just better.
So I just love that Headwhoppers, Kill Chopper, and the Super Cyborg Body have made addition to addition. But on what battlefield, on what world did somebody drop the lucky stick and we just forgot about it?
True.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I missed that enhancement. Sorry, it was a relic back in the day.
Shaka somewhere. Yeah. There's
Nothing was funnier. Nothing was funnier than some orc just walking around with a stick held aloft and just being like half invincible because of the pure self-belief that the stick imbues. It's so good. Nothing could be more orky. But anyway, as for those, I feel like you guys have pointed out some great points. Apart from the Super Cyborg Body, the other three are very takeable. It just depends on if you've got a plan for them, right?
Yeah. I mean, I will say like the Super Cyborg Body, it's fine. I think there's like situations where this could like really save like a war boss or whatever that somehow makes you like have a much better game. But like, it's like, I don't know. I think like depends on like the level you're playing at too. Yeah. I don't know. Is there like Lucas, is there like a single character you can think of taking this on that's like kind of interesting?
Yeah, my first impression is War Boss or War Boss and Mega Armor. Unfortunately, the Mega Boss is pretty bad, and the War Boss, you would much rather take either Cunning Brutal or Follow Me Lads.
Right. I think
Follow Me Lads is so good on a War Boss with knobs that I like. Instead, taking Super Cyborg Body for 10 points less is like, I'll pass.
Yeah, I would only do it if like I had 15. I think this could be relevant if for some reason the ability to target characters becomes like a lot more popular. I just don't think there's anything that can really like snipe characters that I'm that worried about in most like common matchups right now.
Yeah.
But if that were to somehow change, like I would consider it. Yeah.
Good points all made. We have finished up the rules section of this review, and so far it is like I think Orcs is a pretty distinct spectrum. Like you have good, bad, and ugly in every like the stratagems is definitely a good, bad, and ugly, like or good, bad, and situational. And the enhancements seem very similar as well. But let us see if the data sheets reflect that also. I've given each of these gentlemen a purview, to give us 3 of their most notable, distinct, and or interesting data sets. And we're going to go tit for tat. We'll start off with Lucas. First pick, mate. Which is a data sheet that people at home need to know about?
I would say Beast Naga Boys. I think they are one of the Orcs' best data sheets. They're just excellent all-rounders, and they hit pretty hard. They're fairly tough. And they do a lot of good work for the WA. So what Beast Snagas have going for them, compared to last edition, a lot of people are familiar with the Snagas. They gained an inch of movement, and they gained a pip of armor save. With the new way cover works in 10th edition, that very often means that these guys are getting, 4-up and 5-up armor saves against small arms fire. And in conjunction with the Art as Nail stratagem, that means that these guys can be very durable when you need them to. They're also OC2, which means that, when they're sat on objectives, they have a very good time just holding those down. And Choppas retained their AP. So Snaggas have an additional strength over normal boys, so they're strength 5, AP 1. Their datasheet rule is reroll hits into vehicles and monsters. So very good at laying down the hurt into light vehicles and light
Punching
monsters. Punching up. They're just good all-rounders, like I was saying. Good at holding down objectives, good at dealing some damage, and cheap as well, which is excellent.
10.05 points per model, it looks like, which is a kind of a hilarious amount, like 105 for 10 boys.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think for toughness 5 up armor, 5 up feel no pain for around 10 points a model is pretty good.
You can also
Yeah,
take a thump gun if you hate winning. You could take a thump gun.
Yeah,
don't take guns. That's for cowards.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Choppas only.
They have
Absolutely
D3 strength 6 AP 0 shots at hidden 5s.
But they're
Watch
2
out.
damage, Tyler.
It's awesome.
Watch out.
Yeah.
I mean, if the
Yeah.
demon meta ever comes back around, that actually is not horrific. If there's
True
like
that.
just
If
massive,
they could all take a thump gun, that would be cool. Maybe I don't
How
know.
many do you get? Is it 1 per 10? It's 1 per 10. Yeah, if it was like 2 per 10, you could have 4 in a unit of 20 and like play into hordes. Like maybe you could do some hilarious stuff, but even then, why bother?
I feel like they should give the
go
thump gun like the I don't know, like a -2 to move thing, but like shoot something. I don't know. That
Oh
could be,
yeah,
like,
that's
kinda
true. Like the
weird. I
mole
can see
launcher.
that. Yeah, I feel like it should have like utility. That feels like the best case for it. I don't know.
All right, Tyler, your first data sheet of note.
Let's go with Mozrog. Let me
Oof, good
find
choice.
him in this big old index. He's
I got
he's my favorite right now. Yeah.
He's the best model in the book.
Yeah.
True.
He can also take a thump gun, which is 18-inch range, T3 shots, BS5 up, strength 6, AP 0, 2 damage. But that's not why you take him. You take him because he's harder to kill than God, and he just sits there of -1 to wound. And your opponent's like, well, how do I delete this thing? And then you say you don't. And he just goes around being a OC3 and munching on like anything. I'll just read off his rules real quick. 10-inch move, T10, 3 up save, 9 wounds, leadership 6, whatever, OC3. The bigger they is, every time this model makes an attack that targets a monster vehicle unit, add 1 to the damage characteristic of that attack. Each time this model makes an attack that targets a Titanic unit, add 2 to the damage characteristic of that attack instead.
Yeah, wow.
So
big problem
good.
here is he's only AP 1, which sucks. He does have anti-vehicle, anti-monster 4 up. And then the big Champa Jaws crit on 5s when he charges. But the reason why you take him is because he has a 4 up Feel No Pain, a 4 up Invuln, and can be -1 to wound, and he's T10. And he just never dies.
Yes.
Like his damage is very swingy. I feel like in 9th, people got used to him just like deleting units, which he still like sometimes does, but AP1 makes that like, kind of swingy. Like he can't just walk up to a land fortress, especially if like void armor, and then like you expect it to be gone. Against knights too, it was like very swingy. Which is like a matchup I'm less worried about now. But pre-data slate was pretty good into knights, but unpredictable. But yeah, he just soaks up so much fire. People like you can't tell a knight player like that he does 6 damage against them in combat and has dev wounds. Expect them to like ignore him. Everyone like starts panic sweating and like goes out of their way to try and kill him. Which is a mistake,
right?
because he's not gonna die. He's just gonna he will, but if he does, he's probably done his job at that point. Unless you get like if you're very bad at rolling 4 up Invulns, maybe not. Conventionally, he's just like really hard to shift.
So he runs 195 points.
Yep.
Does he make your list as well, Lucas? Because I've seen him pop up in a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's great into light vehicles and armor, and then he's also just ungodly hard to kill. He could lock down a flank just basically by himself. Which go ahead.
It sounds like an Avatar of Cain-esque model. Like you just launch him onto a flank and just hope he takes the 2 turns and 2/3 of your opponent's army to remove, and then that's a win.
Definitely. Yeah, that is a great analogy. He just can he's his own, in his own little world over there, locking things down, and it's great.
Fantastic. All right, sticking with you, Lucas, what's your next pick?
My next pick, pivoting from the chattest orc to the lowliest gits in the mob, are the Gretchen. Despite their diminutive stature, they are definitely one of the best data sheets that orcs have access to. They are incredibly cheap. For some reason, they went down 5 points for 10 in the balanced data slate. Panning to their rules now, and they're just fantastic. They're a 10-man squad. They have a Runterd in the squad, and the Gretchen are OC2, which is wild. So I'll take it across their stat line. They move 6, their toughness 2, they have a 7-up armor, 1 wound, leadership 8, and OC2. Might not seem that impactful, or not that impressive rather, but the only part of that that's important is move 6 and OC2.
Yeah.
These are 40 points for 11 models with 21 OC, an ability to give you CP on a 4-up when they're standing on objectives you control, and the Runt Herd has 2 wounds. So it's just a boatload of wounds, extra CP, tons of screening, lots of OC for an incredibly cheap price. I mean, it's everything that you want when you want to play MSU orcs, right? Like, a lot of my lists start, I think every orc list should have at least 10 of these guys, if not 20 or 30, just to, who cares if 10 of them die? You know, they can come in, do an action, they can go live on an objective, they can charge your opponent and bog them down. They're just a fantastic data sheet for the points, and they do a lot of work in every game I play them.
Yeah.
They have one special rule here that is just, it's the only one you have of its kind in the whole book, yeah? That is Thieving Scavengers. At the start of your command phase, roll 1d for each objective marker you control that has one or more units from your army with this ability on it. Each Gretchen unit that's on an objective, you roll a 4+, and you gain a CP. Of course, you can only gain 1, but the fact is there any other way in this book to gain more CP?
Not that anyone takes. There might literally not be either, but like, yeah, it's the only one I know of that anyone actually makes use of.
Very relevant when we talk about that CP economy, which is actually something that the patrons have identified as a couple of questions related to it. So yeah, these guys I wouldn't leave home with that 20 personally. I know Tyler, Lucas was saying 10, but yeah, man, I mean, a bunch of missions have 2 home objectives. Well, you each get 10 Gretchen. Let's get me some CP.
Yep. And orcs are so rarely, just one additional point real quick, orcs are so rarely taking the tactical deck. I feel like most builds are doing fixed.
Really?
80% of the time. Well, at least that's how I'm usually playing them.
Yeah.
That, you're not getting CP from discarding the cards, right? You're getting CP from the Gretchen only. So this is always getting you mileage. It's never going to be, you're never going to be like discarding a card and getting a CP from the Gretchen. I missed out on some value.
Yeah,
that's a great point.
Thoughts on that later. I really only take tactical right now, but my list is also built for it. So I think they're both fine. But
two types of players, guys. 2 types of orcs out there. One is Gork, one is Mork. And I said that at the start. That's hilarious. All right, Tyler, back to you, mate. What's your next data sheet of choice?
Let's talk about flash kits and our friend Captain Badrick.
Yeah, we'll talk about it as a package because you are not taking one without the other.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. A lone Captain Badger could be very funny. Actually, he'd probably be sad. I don't know. He would look pretty bummed out by himself with 10 of his best friends in a truck. So, finally good for the first time in his history since like 2006 or whatever. Captain Badger is insane. It's I'll go over his rules real quick, then we'll talk about why I like him.
Yeah.
So I mean, his gun is like fine. But the reason why you take him is because he gives flash kits reroll all hits. He also has a 6-inch aura of -1 toughness for infantry units, which is like pretty good because the flash kits are like not bad in combat at all, and it's like easy to forget about. So using him for that is like pretty great. They're basically just an Optiv Choppas. Let me find them.
Yep, I got them. So movement 6, toughness 5, 4-up save, which is actually better than the going rate. 2 wounds, like you said, leadership 7. Snaz gun is heavy and sustained hits 1, which is very nice when you got reroll the hits, and you can turn that up to crit 5s, with a strat, right?
No.
Or is that only in melee?
That's only melee. Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. It would be sick if I could do that. But yeah.
Range 24, 3 shots each, hitting on 5s, of course, but you're rolling to hit with bad rock. Strength 6, -1, 2 damage. This is and I don't think is there even a close contender for second. This is the best shooting unit in this book, and the next best unit is like over the hills and far away, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I would agree with that. They go to 4 shots each if you target the closest enemy unit. And they have a once per game lethal hits, which is insane. I've killed a Yinkarn in Overwatch with them.
That's
like from full, which is like statistically not something that should happen, but it did, and it's like not even like that insane of a statistical anomaly. So, if you reroll all sustained and lethal, it can for sure happen. I mean, they're a versatile unit because they can still like really chop up enemy units in combat. They've got 4 attacks each in melee, going to 5. During WOG, weapon skill 3-up, strength 5, AP 1, damage 1, and if Badrick's there, which he will be, your opponent's -1 toughness against them too.
Yeah.
So yeah, they can like Grey Knights or something like like T4
And
Rotan or T4. Yeah.
it'll run you 270 points for the package, Badrock being 80, and then 10 flash kits being 190. Lucas, they worth it for the points for you as well?
I'm not a Flash Gets believer. I've been disappointed by them in the past. I still think they're a really fun unit.
So
And depending on what's in your meta, I think they can be really powerful. Unfortunately, there's a lot of like Marines and big models in my meta that, Strength 6 doesn't really cut the mustard, and neither does AP1 via shooting. With the new way cover works and AOC, that AP1 doesn't really do a lot.
Yeah.
But depending on what's in your meta, they can be excellent.
Yeah.
And I think if you really want to use them effectively, you have to do all those things that Tyler was mentioning, right? You have to get value out of their 40 attacks, 50 with the wall. You have to get value out of that -1 toughness aura.
So, yeah.
If you use their shooting and their combat, now all of a sudden they're getting you a lot of value.
Yeah, I want to go to the main reason why I think they're good, which is like it's not actually their damage output. I mean, I mostly play player place terrain. That's just like what's in fashion here. WTC would probably feel different, but in player place terrain, your opponent now has a shooting threat that they have to worry about. Most people will just like be like, "What's a flash kit?" And you break down what they do, and they're like, "Oh God, that could be good." They're like lethal, like once per game, and like how many shots, and you reroll all. And now like they can't just like disrespect your firing lanes and just be like they're orcs, they have no shooting. So I feel like it trips up people during player place terrain sometimes.
Definitely.
And it's like nice to be able to position like a place where they're out of line of sight. If someone wants to get an objective, you could have like a little like firing gallery for Overwatch. I mean, like, again, like Overwatch is great. Like orcs are short on CP, right? But I do find myself using their Overwatch quite a bit, and it's like usually pretty effective. Well, it's mostly that it's another factor that your opponent has to like play a puzzle against. Which makes them make mistakes, which is very good for you. Yeah,
270 points to add an extra entirely new wrinkle and dynamic to a game. It doesn't seem like a bad price point. And like you
definitely.
said, if it's very powerful in your meta, 100% power to you, mate. You've identified some really good points there.
Yeah. I think it's mostly just that like your opponent has to like think more and make mistakes. Yeah, that's why I like them. Yeah.
An orc player making their opponent use their brain.
We got a little Mork in there still. I don't know who's Mork in your metaphor still, but yeah, I think flash kits are a little Morky just because of that. Yeah, their damage is like fine, but yeah.
All right, Lucas, your last data sheet of note.
Oh, there are so many good ones. I'm gonna have to go with the Squighog boys. I'm gonna be Gork in this metaphor. I'm taking B-Snag as I'm taking Squigs. I'm running at you and punching you in the face. So yeah, Squighog boys, and I have to talk about the knob on Smash a Squig while I do. That's the only.
It's the package.
Yep, you take them in a package. I mean, the Squighog boys are good on their own, but I think they get juiced up to 11 when they have the knob with them. So the Squighog datasheet, they have move 10. They are toughness 7. Let me find them real quick.
Toughness 7.
Toughness 7 is huge. Yeah, a lot of guns, the anti-tank guns, strength 10, strength 12, aren't really wounding these guys on better than 3s. And with that 1 CP -1 to wound, you can turn it to 4s. 4-up armor, 3 wounds, lead 7, and OC2. Their melee weapons, they have 3 attacks at 5-1-2 Lance, anti-monster vehicle 4-up. So with Lance and strength 5, going up to 6 with the Wah, they're very good at killing light infantry and medium infantry. And with anti-monster vehicle 4-up, AP1 is a little bit sketchy, but they have the volume of attacks to absolutely kill all sorts of different kinds of vehicles. And then they also have 3 extra attacks at weapon skill 4, 6, 1, 2. Their datasheet ability is often forgotten, but it should not be. It is an excellent ability called Wild Ride. You can ignore any of the modifiers to the unit's move characteristic and to advance and charge rolls. So we were just talking about how the Night Spinner stocks are going up.
Yeah.
You trying to make me -2 to move, -2 to charge? Nope, I ignore that.
Never heard of you. Love it.
And then their core ability is Feel No Pain 5-up. So with 3-up armor from cover, Feel No Pain 5-up, 5-up emblem from the Wah, -1 to wound. These guys are way harder to kill than your opponent will think they will be.
Yeah. Because you look at an orc and be like, oh, it's just high toughness and with no save. And you're like, okay, no, it's high toughness with -1 to wound and possibly 2 saves. Because you could easily be rolling a 4-up or a 5-up, even if you're covered with their -1, -2. And then, dude, a 5-up, 5-up with 3 wounds, that could end up being 6, 7 effective wounds you have to do in order to kill even a model. So I think they're a really exciting data sheet. What's the just for people at home? Explain what the Smasher Swing brings to the equation.
Yeah, so it's the only character you can attach to Squighog Boys, but it's an excellent one. He has basically the same stat line, but he is... Oh, interesting. He's OC2. I thought it was OC1.
Yep.
So learn something new every day. The Knob on Smash the Squig is OC2 and 5 wounds. He's basically got the same weapon as his buddies. It's Strength 7 instead of Strength 5 Lance, and it's got 5 attacks instead of 3. And then his ability, he has 2 abilities, both of which are excellent. The first one is Hog Boss. While this model is leading a unit, each time a male model in the unit makes a melee attack, +1 to hit. Excellent, excellent ability considering all of his attacks and the Squighog attacks are hitting on 3s and 4s. Bringing that to 2s and 3s, money. Amazing ability. And then Hunt Them Down is the other. I love these ability names. During the battle round in which you call a Wah, this model's Big Choppa has the anti-monster 3-up and anti-vehicle 3-up abilities instead of 4-up. So lots of synergy. Like Tyler was saying when we went over Head Wappa's Kill Choppa, giving that guy dev wounds, anti-monster 3-up, anti-vehicle 3-up, all of a sudden this guy, you know, you pop 5s explode on him. He's got 6 attacks with the Wah. Boom, 6 hits. Boom, 8 mortals to a vehicle. Before you roll the other, 40 attacks the squad has with anti-vehicle monster 4-up 2 damage. It just kills basically any vehicle you connect with.
Yeah, or monster, which is really important because I feel like there's a lot more anti-vehicle in the game than anti-monster, and it's nice that orcs can like fill that niche. Like when demons were real big, that was great. Against Tyranids, it's still very relevant. Absolutely, monster matchups. Yeah,
it will run you 280 points for the privilege, that being 60 for the Noble Smash Squig, and then 220 for 6 Squighog Boys. All right, Tyson, your last starter sheet, mate.
I'm torn. I could do knobs for fun, or I could do a gargantuan Squighog for fun, or knobs. Knobs would be the most obvious pick, or I could do a Morkanon and waste everyone's time. Let's do knobs. I got the knobs right here. Okay, knobs. Knobs are like a bread and butter staple. I'm a little worried about them. I feel like there's something that might be on GW's chopping block according to MetaWatch, but so they have 1 million power claw attacks. Which are Strength 9, AP 2, Damage 2, which go to Strength 10 and Log, which is the turn where they're really relevant. They get -1 to be wounded if a War Boss is leading them, which you usually have. I know some people do Pain Boy too, which feels like fine. I don't know. When I run them, I do like double War Boss for sure if I do 2. If I do a single unit, I always just do a War Boss. The War Boss has like basically their same profile, but he's Strength 10, I believe, so it goes to 11, which is relevant because there's a lot of things that are T10 in the game. And then he's got 9 attacks and Wog. He's got 4 base, and then he doubles it and gets a +1 for Wog. It's like his special ability. He adds 4 to his attacks characteristic, which is functionally doubling it during the Wog turn. So they're a great target for exploding 5s and 6s, the 1 CP strat. That's like what I use it on most of the time, if not Squighhogs right now. You put them in a truck. You run them up mid and just have them like just delete a unit. The reason why I think they're super good is because orcs don't have a lot of AP too, and Armor of Contempt equivalents for sure hurt us. And like, I mean, with their volume of attacks and having damage too, even if someone does like a Armor of Contempt against them, like they're still going to be at least AP 1, which is enough to kill like big bricks of like most things that, or at least enough to like cripple them. Like they might not like wipe a unit that has like Armor of Contempt and a 2-up base. But you'll do a lot of damage. So
my only gripe
with a niche,
My only gripe with knobs is it still feels like to me they should be OC2 for some reason. I can't really tell you why, but I
certainly wouldn't complain if they were.
I just feel like it would be right and true.
Lucas, I mean, they're just big
boys,
so
exactly right. They're just bigger boys. Lucas, what are your thoughts on the knobs?
I think they're pretty good. They're unfortunately fairly expensive for not for what they do, because they fulfill a very important role. All the other data sheets we've mentioned are AP 1, like literally every single one of them. So getting any kind of different AP in your list is really important, especially if your meta's full of AOC.
Yeah. For context, it's 275 with a War Boss, and then if you throw in a truck, then it becomes 335.
Yeah, which you're absolutely doing because they need a truck. Honorable mention to the truck, by the way. Amazing data sheet.
Unless fuck, I should have read truck. So
that's fine.
Trucks are fantastic.
God damn it. Yeah.
Back to the knobs. I mean, I think they're great. They're expensive for what they do, but sometimes you just need to run them because you need to be able to crack those bricks.
Exactly right. And once again, it's another way you can get respect on the tabletop. If I was playing Space Marines and you only had boys, I would be pretty disrespectful.
Definitely.
Yeah. That is going to bring us to the end of this review of the Orcs Index. Hopefully, you guys have enjoyed it as much as I have running it. But we have one last thing we do before we sign off on this. Starting with yourself, Lucas. Out of 10, how happy are you with this index as an Orc player?
Oh boy. Out of 10, I would say like maybe between a 7 and an 8. I'd say 7.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things I really like. I like how focused it is on lots of units. Things seem fairly cheap. Our enhancements our stratagems are good, which is a nice break from 9th edition when our stratagems were god awful. So yeah, it's nice to be able to like apply some of those relics and stratagems. And it's fun to be able to play the Horde because that's like my favorite playstyle. But there are some things that I think are lacking. You know, our damage as a whole like isn't quite up to snuff with a lot of like the most lethal codexes out there. So I'm cautiously optimistic about the Orc Codex. I'm curious to see what happens when it comes out. I think the index is good fun, and if that kind of gets expanded to the Codex, I think we'll be in a good spot.
Beautiful. Tyler, what about yourself? How happy are you with it out of 10?
I'd give him an 8, but I'd probably give it an 8 for the reason that Lucas gave it a 7. I like when orcs are like a little. I mean, I think they're insane right now. Like, I think they're like a really, really good faction. And one that people undervalue. I feel like they are like below the threshold of being like oppressive, and I like them there though. Like, I think like everything Lucas said is like valid, and I agree with. But I kind of like that. There's like some like weaknesses they still have. I wish it was more AP2. I think my main problem is just like AP1 is like often like just not relevant at all.
Doesn't exist.
Because there's just so many ways to like negate that. And if that wasn't a factor, I think it would be fine. I think it's really cool. I like the Orc Index quite a bit post Data Slate. I think like pre-Data Slate, it was like very strong but kind of boring because you're just trying to play, at least for me, like my only goal is to like max primary secondary. And I did not really do that much damage outside of like incidental damage or against like, you know, units that like are relatively easy to kill. And then now I think like you can actually hurt stuff, which is awesome. It
seems like that to me. There's a level of synergy possibly missing from this. I feel like there's so many factions and attachments in the game that have CP that trigger off their core ability. I really thought there was going to be, when I first read this, a lot of the stratagems were going to have like a kicker to get better on the war turn. Like, you know, the critical 5s might go to critical 4s or whatnot, maybe stuff like that, or you get critical 5s in critical hits and critical wounds or something like that. And I always felt like that was just the one level of synergy that was kind of missing from this book, and it kind of has held true because there is a real big disparity between the takeable and non-takeable units. But that's not exclusive to orcs in any way.
That's a good point. Actually, I would say I would give the part of the codex or the index that people are actually running an 8, and I would give the index as a whole like a 6. Just because there's like so much in here that's like not ever going to be taken, and that feels bad. Like the internal balance is like not the best. There's like you said, obvious winners and losers. All
right. So. Sticking with you, Tyler, for one more. Quickly, where on the competitive spectrum are orcs right now from our traditional, you know, D tier up to S tier?
I would put them somewhere in A. I don't know if it's high or low, but I'd put them somewhere thoroughly in A. I think like one problem is like there are still some matchups I run into where it's like, well, I don't really like know what to do here. I think like
fair enough.
Lucas, I think A is fine though.
What about yourself, mate?
I'm a little bit more skeptical about orcs. I think they're toward the bottom of A, maybe top of B on a tier list. I think they have a lot going for them, but unfortunately a lot of the people at the top, like in S tier and A tier, really prey on them. Like I feel like Votan, CSM, Chaos Knights, like I'm a CSM and CK player myself, and I don't even know how to approach that matchup from the Orcs perspective. Like I think you just literally get slaughtered as soon as they encounter you. Maybe others have had other experiences, but
I don't know. We also play in different like terrain and stuff. I would agree it's like not an easy matchup, but I've like I don't know, I've won that matchup against like very good players, and it was like, not easy, but it's possible.
I almost have to give orcs two scores here, because I think in a singles environment they are a B to B plus, and I think in freaking teams they are an A plus. They're an absolute A freaking plus in teams. A little bit of pairings ability, and they are gold standard superstars. Absolutely.
I would still put them in like mid to low A, as opposed to like definitely low A.
No,
But
totally.
in
And
teams
it's-
they're insane. I agree. Yeah.
On that note, we are going to wrap this up. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on. You've been absolute legends representing your respective gods, Gork and or Mork. Once again, go over and check out that $1 billion clown farm to get some more Tyler Russo goodness and or the next generation over in the Biff Pod realms in the Pacific Northwest for Lucas Troller and his cohort. Thank you again very much, boys, for coming on. Please feel free to say your good nights.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Thanks, Adam. It was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Okay.
Thank you for listening to Art of War Down Under, a content review podcast for Warhammer 40K, hosted by Adam Camilleri, produced by Seamus Ronan. Enjoyed the show? Want your lists reviewed and the content you heard put into practice? Sign up to our Patreon and connect with us online or on Facebook. Just search for Art of War Down Under. Signing out from tomorrow.